turn to Proverbs 8:19. Proverbs 8 and verse 19. I think I'm only going to cover 2 verses tonight, since we had other things that we were doing. And then next time we'll finish up verse 21, and that'll finish up this section of Proverbs 8. And then we'll get to the next section, which is the really interesting section, verses 22 through 31. So that'll be some interesting stuff, Lord willing. All right, Proverbs 8 and verse 19 says, I lead in the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of judgment. That's 20. Okay, thank you. How about verse 19? Verse 19, my fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver.
20 is nice, too.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that one in a little bit. Okay, my fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold. Of course, this is wisdom personified, speaking, as we've been looking at here for a long time. And so we see that the fruit of wisdom is better than gold and even fine gold. So fine gold would be gold that had been refined and gotten all the impurities out. Gold might just be rocks that have gold in it, or gold dust, or something like that, or some gold coin that's not all that great. But fine gold is really precious stuff. But wisdom's fruit is even better than that. If you go back to Proverbs 13 through 15, Proverbs 3, 13 through 15, just recover a little ground we covered a long time ago. It says, happy or blessed, happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that thou canst desire are not to be compared unto her. So she's more precious than gold, silver, rubies, or anything that you could possibly desire, as we looked at before. And wisdom, of course, is found in the Word of God, and the Word of God, likewise, is more precious than gold. If you turn back to Psalm 19 and verse 10, this is the chorus when we sing Psalm 19. Verse 10 is the one that you keep going back to. More to be desired are they, that is, the fear of the Lord, the law of the Lord, the statutes of the Lord, the word of God, in other words. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. So they added a little word there. David added a little word there, much. So more to be desired even than much fine gold. It's not just one little piece, but a whole bunch of it. Wisdom says that my fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold. Fruit, now of course the primary definition is like an apple or an orange, it's that kind of food. But that's not what this is talking about. Fruit in this context is anything accruing, produced, or resulting from an action or effort, the operation of a cause, etc. Think like the fruit of my labor, whatever I produce with my labor, right? Material produce, outgrowth, increase. In the plural, it would be products or revenues. It's an immaterial product, a result, issue, consequence, or it could be an advantage, benefit, enjoyment, or profit. So something good that is produced by labor or by something, it's the effects of some process. So one of the reasons that wisdom's fruit is better than gold is because those who love wisdom will inherit substance and will have their treasures filled by her. Now we'll get to that next week, Lord willing. In verse 21, it says, that I may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasures. So one reason why her fruit's better than fine gold is because, like I talked about here maybe just a week or two ago, is that she brings treasures in addition to the spiritual blessings that she brings. So in other words, those who possess wisdom will not only have wisdom, which is more valuable than gold and other precious things, but they'll also have gold or wealth or valuable things, in other words, in addition to wisdom. But we see that wisdom is more valuable than gold and precious things from back in verses 10 and 11, if you'll remember that. It says, receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold, for wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. So wisdom is the principal thing. It's the most important thing. It's a blessing in and of itself. But then that blessing of wisdom also enables you to get wealth, which is another additional material blessing. So that's why her fruit is better than that of fine gold, because not only does she have herself, but then she also, can get you the fine gold as well. And you think about this. A man can get gold with wisdom, but he cannot get wisdom with gold. A man can get gold with wisdom. You take a guy that has wisdom, and maybe he just has nothing. Maybe, like think about it. The early immigrants to this country came over from Europe, like my family. My grandfather, I think, came over here with $7 in his pocket or something. $7 was more back then, but still not very much money. Basically almost nothing. Came over here, and by the time he died, he had cleared off hundreds of acres of farmland, gave a farm to each of his boys, and was a fairly well-off guy, I guess, by those standards. And his son was even better off. And then, but anyway, that was my great-great-grandfather. So he came over here and apparently had some wisdom, knew how to work at least, practical wisdom, and he was able to amass some gold because of that, right? So if you have wisdom, you can get gold, but you can't get wisdom with gold. You take a rich fool, and all of his money will not get him wisdom. If he could buy his way into Harvard, and lots of rich people buy their kids into Harvard or Yale or whatever, the Ivy League schools, no matter how much money, if he's a fool, he's not going to get wisdom. So you can get gold with wisdom, but not wisdom with gold. I'll just give you a couple of verses that'll tell us that, though. Job 28 and verse 15. We know that you can get gold with wisdom because we've already seen she says she'll fill your treasures. But let me give you a couple of verses here that'll show that you can't get wisdom with gold. Job 28. I don't know if I gave you the verse or not. Job 28 and verse 15. So he's talking about wisdom. In verse 12 he says, but where shall wisdom be found? And he goes on to talk about wisdom. Then in verse 15, Job 28:15, he says, it cannot be gotten for gold, neither shall silver be weighed for the price thereof. So you can't get it with gold. You can't get it with money. It says in Proverbs 17 and verse 16 that if you put a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, he's got no heart to it and he can't get it. Proverbs 17 and verse 16. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he hath no heart to it? Why even put a price in his hand? Why put a price on it? Because he doesn't have the heart to it. Even if you've got the money for it, he doesn't have the heart for it. And I have a little note there in my Bible which says, sending most kids to college. Price in their hand to get wisdom. They've got no heart to it, especially when their parents are paying for it. And they go there and they screw around and they drink for 4 years. And they get some degree maybe, and it's worthless to them. They didn't get any wisdom. They didn't learn anything of any real value. They just wasted a bunch of time and a bunch of their parents' money.
Probably still can't get a job either.
And then
Make more.
That's exactly right. And if their parents paid for it, at least their parents are just out. But if they saddled themselves with debt, then they're stuck with that. And that's a huge problem these days. That kids saddling themselves with debt, some of like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and they can't get a job that'll ever pay it off. And college loans, student loans, are the one form of debt which cannot be written off in bankruptcy. So they are stuck with it for the rest of their lives, until Biden bails them out. But they're, yeah, and I mean it's a moral hazard though. It's if the government would have never got involved in student loans and would have never guaranteed student loans and then issued them. It used to be they guaranteed them. When I went to school, they guaranteed them. Now they actually issue them. So the government actually loans you the money for school. They don't go through intermediaries. When you do that, and you loan these dumb, know-nothing kids money to go to school, then the colleges can jack up tuition because there's a bunch of kids going to school that shouldn't be. And supply and demand, they're bidding up they're bidding up the price of college, basically. When you got a bunch of people that want to go there, they raise the prices. And when the kids aren't paying for it themselves, nothing stops the prices from going up and up. That's why it's exorbitantly expensive right now. And then these kids end up being strapped and laden with debt that they'll never get out from under. It's quite the system. Okay, so anyway, Another reason that wisdom's fruit is better than gold is because it gives the man who has it a long, peaceful, pleasant, and honorable life. So that would be another reason why it's better than gold, because, you really can't get those things with gold. You can maybe get a long life, or you can extend your life if you can afford good health care. Maybe, I don't know, these days I think if you stay away from the doctor you probably live longer, but in some cases, if you have money, you can get the best care and you can maybe live a little longer. But a pleasant life, I'm not sure that gold could buy that. An honorable life, no, not really. A peaceful life, in fact, the abundance of the rich suffereth them not to sleep. So in a lot of ways, when you have a lot of money, you don't necessarily have peace, and you probably have the opposite. So gold really can't buy these things, but wisdom can. Proverbs 3:16 through 17. Proverbs 3:16 through 17. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. So long life, riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. That's the fruit of wisdom. You get those things when you have wisdom. When you make wise decisions and you live righteously, then the effect of that is long life, peace, pleasantness, honorable life.
Isn't stress one of the most common reasons why people die prematurely?
It's a big killer.
But if you have wisdom, then you have peace.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, wisdom should reduce your stress, because a lot of times when people get stressed out, it's because they've taken on too much. They're not wise enough to say no to things, to say no to all the activities and all the things that are pulling them this way and that way and keeping them running constantly and taking all their time and attention. They buy too many things they don't need, and then those things own them, and they have to spend all this time trying to keep it all up. And yeah, when you have wisdom and you learn to say no, you don't have all that stress. You have peace, and you'll have a longer life. And then Proverbs 4:8 and 9 says, Exalt her, talking about wisdom, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace. A crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. So once again, she brings honor and promotion into your life. That's why her fruit's better than gold. And then she says, And my revenue than choice silver. So this is interesting. Based on that word revenue, we see that wisdom produces a return of income for the man who possesses it. Now, I suppose, once again, you could, if you had wisdom and you made good investments, you could make money, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about that kind of revenue. Revenue means the return, yield, or profit of any lands, property, or other important source of income. That which comes into one as a return from property or possessions, especially of an extensive kind, income from any source, but especially when large and not directly earned. So revenue, by definition, is a return that comes from property that you own. If you owned a house and you rented it to somebody, that's revenue because you're getting money. Or if you owned a field and you rented it to somebody, that would be revenue, the profit that comes off of those of something that you own.
The hay that comes out of my fields.
Yeah, that's revenue. Now, we don't really use the word revenue that way. When we talk about government revenue, we just mean money coming into the government. They don't own anything, or the only thing they own is what they stole from somebody else. But that's not revenue by definition. So wisdom's revenue is primarily the durable fruits, such as righteousness and honor. If you remember verse 18, I realize that was a whole week ago, but if you remember what I talked about then, it says, Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. So that's her primary revenue, is those durable wealth like righteousness and honor. So whoso possesses wisdom finds life and favor from the Lord. Verse 35 of Proverbs 8. For whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. So just like a dividend-paying stock, as long as a man possesses wisdom, she will keep paying him dividends of blessings, happiness, and peace. You know what a dividend-paying stock is? So if you have a stock that is a dividend-paying stock, you get paid a certain percentage of the value of that stock every year. So if you have a dividend-paying stock that pays a 5% dividend, and just throw a number out there, you had $100,000 in it or something, you would get $5,000 per year given to you from that company that you have stock in. So they're giving a share of the profit to you, in other words. And then you can roll that back into the stock and buy more stock with it, or you can take it out and live off of it. You know, people that are younger would just roll it back in. People that were older would live off of that investment. But that's a dividend-paying stock. That would be in addition to if the stock price itself went up. If the stock price went up, then you'd make money on that. But that's not the dividend. The dividend is what they're paying you, regardless of what the stock price does. They're paying you 5% on whatever portion of it that you own. So that's why I say that's like revenue. Revenue, a dividend-paying stock is revenue. Is you own this piece of this company, and you're getting income coming off of it because of the piece of the company that you own. Well, it's just like that with wisdom. Since she